Thank you, Fabian. Have a safe flight. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all and welcome to this conference. You have an array of extremely good speakers who will be touching on many of the areas that I would normally touch on, so I will try and steer clear of the detail of the regulatory framework, which I know you have a number of speakers, including our regulators who are here today, and the future prospects in terms of our approach to tokens. So I will just give you, if I may, an overview of where we are, how we got here, and what we want to get to. And I think the point that the Chief Minister just made is a very relevant one as to innovation and what is our philosophy in innovation and what is our posture in innovation, because at the end of the day, our role as a government is to provide the business community with a legal and regulatory framework that enables them to do safe business. And when Fabian talks about e-government and he talks of, e-gaming and our success over the past 25 years in delivering a platform and a regulatory framework which the world's largest and best known online gaming firms can operate within, and in 25 years without a single failure, it begins to tell you that the idea of creating frameworks is something that we are familiar and comfortable with. And comfortable is important because in order for us to be able to take the steps that you need to be able to innovate, without that regulatory framework, without that legal certainty and that regulatory certainty, it often is impossible to do so. And we understand that. We recognize that. We're a government of 10 ministers, 6 of whom are lawyers. We have a commercial background. We understand the needs of business and what it needs to be able to do things in a proper way. But above all else, I think the one message I would give you is that the business that we are interested in is quality business. Ultimately, our success in gaming is because by providing a regulatory framework, we were able to attract quality firms that wanted to be regulated at a time when nobody was regulating them. And indeed, when they first came to Gibraltar 25 years ago, we didn't have a legislative framework. We didn't have a regulatory framework. So how did we do it? Well, actually, we regulated them by contract. So we issued them with contractual licenses, which detailed the terms of the conduct they and we expected from them in how they operated their business in Gibraltar. And then, of course, legislation caught up. In this space, the truth is the reverse, because we started working on blockchain, on crypto, and on fintech 4 years ago, long before it was a common term and long before many of the other jurisdictions who are now considering it today even began to think about it. And I have to be honest, and I can't take all the credit for it, because when I was first approached by people from the private sector to look at cryptos and digital assets and blockchain, we were very negative. We thought there's too much risk, there were too many bad actors in the space. This is not going to enhance our reputation in Gibraltar, which is what we treasure most. And consequently, I was asked to agree to set up a working group between private sector and the public sector to see what the opportunities were. And I agreed on the basis that we were never going to be committed to the results of that, or the findings of this working group, that they were going to do a deep dive into the technology, into the space generally, into the actors and the players who were in it. And over 3 years, and having issued 3 different consultation documents, which the private sector, both in Gibraltar, interestingly, as time went on, internationally, told us that they honestly believed that there was a space here for safe, good quality business to happen. And so, in May of last year, we issued our final regulatory consultation document, which was specifically on how we propose to regulate. And the big shift in that document to the previous 2 was that in the past we looked at cryptocurrencies and how we could regulate cryptocurrencies, and you will know better than I the difficulties and the challenges that that presents. And so Sean Jones, who was recruited into the Financial Services Commission, a leading expert, particularly in the area of this technology, who was advised he would be in Parliament and the UK Parliament and many others, and will be addressing later on today, said we need to regulate the technology because everything else sits on top of the technology. And so that is where the DLT framework, which we announced last May in 2017, was born. And that led to the legislation which came to Parliament in October of 2017 with unanimous support of all the members of Parliament, and was then brought into effect on the 1st of January. We had the transitional period for 3 months for firms that had previously been working in that space before December 31st, and they had to file their applications by then. And as the Chief Minister has mentioned, we have had 2 firms now fully licensed. There are a total of 40 that have made applications and are going through the process with the regulator, and there are another 5 who have had in-principle approvals, and they are now working through the conditions that they have on their in-principle approval from the regulator. As Fabian also said, this is not a light touch regulation. We are not seeking to have a fast track to get that regulatory certainty. We do want speed to market, absolutely. But it's got to be done thoroughly and properly. And I make no apology for the fact that our regulators will take an applicant through a very thorough and detailed process. And what is the thinking behind the process, and what is the thinking behind the framework? Well, in very basic terms, what we sought to do was to transpose from financial services the areas which we believed were relevant to people that were being involved in this business. So corporate governance, fitness and propriety, business plans, security, critically AML and CFT. One of the first things we did in March of this year, when tokens began to escalate, was to apply our Proceeds of Crime Act, financial crime, AML in particular, to token sales and token issuers in Gibraltar, because we believe that is an area which this sector is susceptible to, and it needs to defend itself. And the best way it can defend itself is by being ahead of the curve in terms of compliance. And so, in dealing with all of these, what we call 9 core principles, soon to be 10, we put into place a regime which governed how we expect people in this market to conduct themselves. And that is not identical to financial services, you know very well, but certainly aligned on the core principles of financial services, applying it to the technology and people that use it. And indeed with token sales, we will shortly be issuing our token legislation. Again, what are the critical factors that you would want to see if you're going to be subscribing to any form of investment? Disclosure, transparency, corporate governance. And we're not going to have the issuer itself regulated. It'll be the authorised sponsor, Nomad equivalent here in the UK on AIM, or all the sponsors at the stock exchange, who will certify to the regulator that the issuer has complied with the detail of the regulation. Again, same principles, as I mentioned earlier. And where do we think this will go? Well, we had yesterday a session, yesterday morning, here in London on crypto funds and the future of crypto funds. We were also looking at crypto funds. What are the slight adjustments that we should be thinking about in applying the principles that we already have in our funds legislation for the particular business of cryptos? Somebody's going to be investing in virtual assets. How best should we manage, from a regulatory perspective, how the funds operating in that space should be behaving themselves? And that is something that is very much work in progress, and our regime is up and running. The Financial Services Commission issued a statement to policy paper on funds and crypto funds last week, and our thinking will continue. So, is that it? Well, we are looking at other areas. One of the key areas that we believe is important for the success of the innovation that you are all involved in is education. And so we have last week announced a cooperation with the University of Gibraltar and the Government of Gibraltar, where we will be taking the education not just to the schools, but partnering with the firms that are coming to Gibraltar to provide courses, professional development, training, and ultimately university courses in this space. And it's a powerful combination when you have a government that supports the sector, a university that is able and willing to get involved in furthering education in this sector, together with the firms that are coming to Gibraltar. We have some of the world leaders in this space coming to be licensed in Gibraltar. So to use their expertise, their knowledge and their resource, linking up with the university and putting that into education, training and learning is a very powerful combination. So we will be rolling those out. I think the first courses at a professional development level will be starting shortly, and we will then be spending time with our firms to put these courses together to provide the expansion of the community, if I can put it that way, of the blockchain. So I'm grateful to all of the firms. Some of them are here today for joining us in that journey and for supporting us in the university. We've also launched GANT, the Gibraltar Association of New Technologies. Again, a body which will represent the private sector, working with government to deliver and to keep up to date with the changes that we need to be aware of. We don't believe our system is perfect. We don't believe our framework is perfect. We believe it's a pretty damn good start. But we are watching and learning from others in how they are rolling out their infrastructure in their frameworks. And we will, as and when we have to, adjust to ensure that we're keeping up to date and that we stay ahead in terms of the regulatory framework that we've introduced. It's not an easy course to take. It is challenging. But we believe with quality firms and with the private sector very much on our side, it will be easier to manage and mitigate the risks and the challenges that will undoubtedly come in the coming months and years ahead. The beauty of Gibraltar is simple, we're small. There aren't many jurisdictions where the regulator, the private sector and the government can sit around a table and talk about the detail of this business, or indeed any other business. And that is exactly how we got here, and that is exactly how we will continue to work with the private sector, whose support I'm always grateful for, in engaging with them and ensuring that we keep to the core values that we have set ourselves. So, that's a little overview of where we are and where we want to get to. I'm grateful to you all for being here today, and I hope you have a very interesting and enjoyable day here. Thank you.